first off, we should establish you are broadcasting from your home studio in the San Francisco Bay Area, correct?
That's correct.
And then you just mentioned you've been, in an effort to make the best of a bad situation, you've actually been hard at work in your studio doing recording with your daughter Liv.
Yeah, she came up with her producer friend AJ Jenkins. They came up on Friday the 13th, and they were only going to be here for the weekend to do a little work here in the studio. And come Monday, it was the shelter in place order, so they decided to stay here instead of going back to Los Angeles where they live and be stuck in their apartments down there. So they'd rather stick around here at the resort and recording facility.
Oh, it's a resort now. Okay. All right. Wow.
That's what AJ calls it, the resort.
Well, so I gotta ask, do you, when you work with Liv, I mean, do you collaborate as equals? Because it's, A, it's I'm your dad, and then B, it's I also have many more years of experience in this particular field. How does that give and take work when you guys are working together?
Well, typically, I did collaborate with AJ on this one little song that's we just jammed, and it's really nothing. It's just a groove, but he did his magic on it, and it came out really nice. So I don't really contribute musically to her
Hmm.
stuff because she's got her own groove, and she doesn't really listen to me that much musically anyway. But I speak of my experience to both of them, and they listen to they're interested in what I've accomplished and like that. But I'm not really that um, much of a contributor musically to her stuff. And once you hear
Right,
it, you
right.
know why. I don't need to be. It's really, really good.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and she has her own Facebook page. I would encourage people to go check her out under the name Liv Gibson. And then speaking of studio stuff, there's a history of people of drummers, especially ones who have been experienced on the road, having trouble transitioning into studio play. Um, and I'm wondering, and I bring this up, pardon the name drop, but so I was interviewing Kenny Aronoff yesterday, and there's the famous story when he came in to do those initial John Mellencamp sessions, and they said, "Well, you're not quite right for the studio sessions." And I'm curious, I've heard other similar stories. Why does that happen? And did you battle a similar hurdle when you first went into the studio?
No, I never battled anything. I just and we all had the same experience in the studio. So there wasn't one guy who was more experienced and knew to say, no, that's not, you're doing that wrong or something like that. We all went in with the same exact experience. So,
Oh, okay.
I never, I always felt very comfortable there, and I don't, uh, Kenny, I know, I don't think we toured with John Cougar in those early days. We did quite a few shows with them.
Okay.
And I don't remember any of them being any more experienced than Kenny. So I find it weird.
And then, talking about, recording and such, how would you say, you've changed over, your work recording sessions, because you get a better ear for it, I assume, over time as you do albums and okay, this is going to translate well on an album. Maybe this won't, but it'll work live, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, you learn patience. There's a lot of time waiting around, and you learn patience, and you also learn to know what you like. the sounds you like and how to go about getting them. That's all experimentation in the beginning. But once you determine what sound you like and what you're going for, then that comes easier. And you, you learn to, in my case, I learned to really play the song as opposed to making it a drum song. I learned how to just to be a better ensemble player.
Hmm. And then, like with this recording of the new album, Weather, was there anything you did differently that you than you did in previous albums?
Oh yeah, lots. For one, we were rarely. I think I don't. Let's see. Did we record any basics as a rhythm section? Yes, one or two were recorded as actually basic. A basic track. What the way we go about it in the studio is, you record a basic track, which is generally the rhythm section, piano, drums, bass, guitar. Then you can always go back and fix anything you want nowadays, especially with Pro Tools.
Hmm.
But uh, we would record it that way, and then and hopefully get a take that we could use and build on, and use as the foundation for the rest of the tracks that go on it. Solos, horns, vocals, percussion, all that stuff goes on top of the foundation. So we would do it that way. We only did it that way on a couple of tunes on this album. One song, While We're Young, was done by that's John Pierce, and Johnny wrote a little verse section, but that's
Hmm.
all John Pierce's stuff. He did all the programming for keyboards and stuff like that. That's the one and only Huey Lewis and the News track that I have zero to do with. I wasn't any part of the playing or production of that track, and that's the only one I can think of that I didn't have something to do with.
And yet,
So
you guys have played that one live over the
yeah,
years. Was his programming, I would assume, somewhat influenced by how you played it live?
no, how I played it live was influenced. Well, I was influenced by his programming.
Oh, okay.
A few things. I added some kicks with the horns, and we made it more of a live song. And I play I I play the fills that I play, but truth be known, I copied a lot of the little fill that goes into the chorus. I play that just like he programmed it, so because it
Okay.
worked.
Yeah. And that's something I've also wondered about. I mean, because you guys, you've done some program stuff in the past. The most famous one being Bad is Bad, but there's also been others where it was a mix of there was a little bit of programming and then a mix of your live stuff. As Hugh explains, he used you a lot for fills and things of that nature. And I'm curious, what your advice would be to drummers because that's happening more and more to carve out your space. How do you work with a programmed drum piece that you get to express yourself, but you're not fighting the programmed part?
Right. Well, if you have like a loop going, a percussion loop or something like that, and you're playing a full drum kit over it, then you have all the freedom in the world. But the way we used to go about doing it was on a lot of songs was we would lay down like a bass drum and a hi hat
Hmm.
and sometimes snare drum, so it was real steady, very steady. And I would go back in and I'd overdub tom toms, fills on the tom toms, and cymbal crashes, so it gave the effect of being a real drum set.
Hmm.
And it worked. It really worked in a lot of instances. But and that's not to say that I didn't play the kit and there was no drum machine, because there was.
Yeah.
We the majority of our stuff is just me playing the drums.
Hmm.
So on the tunes that we did use the machines, we would just go very basic so that the track would be solid, and we wouldn't have to play to and it just suited the songs that we did use the machine on. The tunes were suited for that treatment, so.
Yeah, yeah. And then continuing on with the album Weather, I was curious, how did the tune Hurry Back Baby come about? Because you are a co-writer of that song.
That's right. I wrote the music to that song, and Huey wrote the words. I wrote the music, and he had this lyric that he kept on. What Huey does basically is he'll get this idea for a lyric and a hook, and he'll write down his lyric ideas and send it out to everybody. It says, "Do something with this, put some music to this." So I got it, and I thought, maybe we talked about it being a shuffle, but I thought, I think it'd be a good shuffle, and so I just came up with the thing, and I did a little demo in my studio and sang it and sent it out to Huey, and he liked it, and the band thought it was okay, so we worked it up. I would have preferred to spend a little more time on it. I don't think we spent enough time getting it as good as it could have been, but that said, James Hara plays his ass off on it, and he's just wonderful. So I can't complain about the finished product.
Wow, yeah. And so, but I find it fascinating, just as someone who's never written a song, that, he just gives you this turn of phrase, and then your mind just goes to a certain feel for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it could, feel-wise, it could have gone anywhere. I could have written that to a slower tune or a faster tempo, or there's any number of ways you could approach it, but I just had that chorus, the hurry back baby, because after just one kiss, I had that chord progression.
Okay.
So and so I worked that into a verse and then a little solo section. My demo's quite a bit different. The horn chart, I wrote most of the horn chart. Johnny did some little tweaking of it, but that's mostly my horn chart.
Oh, wow. Okay. How many other instruments do you play?
Well, I'm a player of a lot of instruments, but master of none. So, as my friend Bill Champlin used to say, player of all instruments, master of none.
Yeah.
But I play my clumsy little claw-fisted piano, and I play a little guitar and a little bass, enough to where I can get my ideas down, in demo form. And now that I have a lot of time, I've been playing a lot more of the instruments, so it's really neat. I'm getting a little better at the keyboard, and I'm playing a little more on. I'm doing a project of my own of material that I've written over the last 35 years that wouldn't be suitable for Huey and the News.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of stuff that I'm re-recording now, and I play most of the instruments on it, or I program a lot of the instruments that's on it, and we'll see where that goes. I'm going to redo a couple of tunes that I wrote for the band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Just for fun. I'm going to attempt to do a lead vocal.
All right.
We'll see how
well, I mean,
it goes.
You've been singing for years, so I mean,
Yeah,
although in the background, but it's not too much of a leap, I would assume.
No, it's possible. I can do
Yeah.
it. And we'll see how it goes. I may have to get my daughter Liv in to
Right.
sing it when it's done. But yeah, I'm going to attempt it.
I'm trying to also simultaneously pick up questions people are asking as we're talking. There was one person who wrote in, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but one person wrote in, what is your favorite song to play live?
I get that question asked a lot. It all depends on when you ask. Right now, it would be "Remind Me Why I Love You Again." That's great fun to play. What else?
Well, what
Boy.
makes that in particular so much fun? Just the swing of it?
Yeah, just that it's funky, and it's
Hmm.
I love that funk beat. And now that we added a pretty much more so than my demo, a more complex horn arrangement to it, that gives me a lot of freedom to hit those horn riffs.
Hmm.
So that's always fun.
Yeah, because you always said that playing with a horn section is like a great delight of drummers. And when you guys went out with the Tower of Power horn section, that was especially fun.
Oh my God, there's nothing better.
Just it just does it just you feel like an extra punch to everything you do, or
Yeah, and no, usually when we would record, we would cut the basic track, like I said, and then we'd put horns on it later. So I wouldn't have the luxury of knowing what the horn arrangement was, and so I couldn't kick them in the recording.
oh,
Um, Sometimes they would put a horn punch where I had already done a punch as a fill. They would work around me, but
okay.
most of the time the horns, I like I said, I didn't have the luxury of knowing what they were going to do, so I couldn't kick them. And with Tower, you go out live, and now Greg Adams wrote all these fantastic horn arrangements with punches and kicks here and there, and I would just go, yeah, right, that's mine. I'll have that, and kick it with him.
And then when those things happen, do you discuss with him like, all right, for this song, I know you guys come up at this point, and I'd like to add in this, or what if we try to give and take here and there? I mean, is that how it gets worked out?
No, I would just do it on my own volition,
Yeah.
and I would be told later, hey, that's awesome what you just did there, or don't kick there, that doesn't work.
Okay.
By any number of people.
Right. But and it actually makes me think of because Huey talked about one of the interesting things when you guys did the Soulsville album is that the original recordings they were kind of in the same situation you're talking about in that they didn't know what the full arrangements were going to be when they were playing to them. You guys had the hindsight being 2020 coming in and knowing, all right, well here's how the final song came out, and you guys got to play more to that. And
Yeah,
so,
we were very true to each instrument on all of those songs. We tried to get what they did, and I tried to play as faithfully as I could to what they did. I tried to recreate it as faithfully as I could. And so I didn't take too many liberties on that stuff. There's a
hmm,
couple of tunes where I think I filled a little more than their drummer, and then on the other side of that coin, there was a lot of tunes where I didn't feel anywhere near as much as the drummer on the track, just because we thought it would, whoa, let's dial that back a little bit. But
okay.
yeah, as a group though, we tried to stay as faithful to those cuts as we could.
Okay. Um, and then, talking about, the way things were done in the old days and stuff, your dad was a jazz drummer and raised you on all these now classic jazz pieces. And although Huey Lewis and the News are not considered a jazz group, I'm curious how all of that um, indoctrination maybe influenced your playing with this band.
Big time, huge, and especially where the horns come in, because like I say, I was raised on big band jazz. I was raised on Count Basie, um, Buddy Rich's band, Duke Ellington, the Dorsey bands, uh, and that for the drummer in those bands, it was all about kicking the horns. So that's where I got that sensibility, and I I always loved that feel. And Huey's the same way. Huey's father and my father were really very much the same. Huey's dad was a frustrated jazz drummer, and Huey was raised on big band jazz and jazz music in general, and so we have that same sensibility. And so we never butted heads over that stuff. We were always right on the same page when it came to that. But it definitely influenced me on how, and even when there's no horns, sometimes the keyboards punch something, and you got to kick it with them. And that
Hmm.
definitely gives a big band sensibility.
And then also because there's so many songs with your guys' catalog that I don't know, I would peripherally say, they swing. They fall under that category and you go, you throw it into shuffles and things like that, which you don't always hear in traditional rock bands. And so
Yeah,
um I guess that was just always part of your DNA cooked in there.
exactly. That's exactly right. Yep.
And then, from what I read, also with Huey's dad being a jazz drummer, and the drums was the first instrument Huey was taught. Um, did that? Did you guys have a shorthand kind of communication since he, had a little bit of experience playing drums?
Uh, no, no, I wouldn't say shorthand. He and the rest of the guys in the band, for that matter, everybody has ideas for what the other guy should be playing. So they would try and verbalize that to me. There was really never any shorthand way of doing it, though. He would say, "Hey, what if like the beginning of This Is It?
Hmm.
If this is it, Huey, that was Huey's idea to do that buzz roll, the
Oh,
and that's exactly how he put it to me. He said, "How about in the intro? How about you just do this?" That's he couldn't even verbalize it that well, but I took it to mean, oh, that's a buzz roll into a jacketa pop boom,
right,
in the song. So he doesn't verbalize in drummer's terms, but he can
right.
get
Okay. And it's funny just because so often I'm amazed at how often I talk to musicians who know how to read music, know how to write music. You talked about, you create these horn charts and everything, but still, when it comes to communicating with another musician about what they have in mind, they usually just kind of sing out the part.
right. That's
Is
right.
it that is it that much easier to communicate than having the actual notes?
Yes, because there's nuances in in the parts that you can't notate, and there's you can to a certain extent, but you can explain them much better verbally. Like you can say, "Listen, I want to scoop right there. I want to boom," you know. And I guess yeah, you can notate that, but if you can sing it to them. If you have the idea in your head, you can sing it to them much easier than
Okay.
most
Uh,
part, I think.
Someone
And
just
home,
asked, I only got a fleeting glimpse, but someone just wrote in and asked about the band's musical growth from Four to Small World. And I don't know, how did you guys change from that album, between those albums?
um, it was less distorted guitar.
Hmm.
I don't think there was much of a change, but there was more. Well, there was more of a change to um, boy. And I disagree. I don't think there was much of a change. I know
Okay.
we were taking some of all that crunch guitar stuff that we did early on. That
Hmm.
there was a lot less of that on that album.
Okay.
And
Okay. Was that a band choice or was that like a Chris Hayes choice?
oh, that was a band choice.
Okay.
That was a Huey choice. Is what it was.
Another thing I definitely wanted to ask you about was this past month you were part of a house band for a benefit concert for the Animal Rescue Foundation. And I wonder if you could talk about how that came about and all the people you got to play with for this session.
Yeah. Tony La Russa, who was the Oakland Athletics manager for years, and that's how I met Tony and became a good friend. Um, he has the ARF Foundation, the Animal Rescue Foundation, which they get animals and strays and runaways, and they place them with seniors and people who need support animals, and just homes in general. They place these animals, and every year he has ARF benefit, which is a benefit he throws to benefit the foundation, obviously. But this started 20 plus years ago, and for the first 10 or 12 years, I was in he calls it the ARF All-Star Band. And so I was the drummer for the first 10 or 12 years in the All-Star Band. And it's put together by Mark Russo, who is saxophone player with the Doobie Brothers, and played with. And I met Mark when he toured with us. He was with the Tower Power Horn section when they toured with us.
Okay.
That's how I met Mark. And he's since been with the Doobie Brothers for 20 plus years. And so he would put together the players, and that's where I first played with Steph Burns live. Was at one of the first benefits. He was a guitar player one year, and we would back up everyone. We backed up Clint Black, Vince Gill, Amy Grant, Dennis DeYoung, the Kinslers.
From Styx?
Yeah, from Styx. We backed up tons of people over that 10, 12 years. And it's really fun because you have to learn, you got to woodshed for a while because you have to learn all this new material.
Yeah.
You get one rehearsal and then you go and do the gig. And it's always really fun. And after that 10 or 12 years, I can't really remember what happened, but all of a sudden I stopped doing it for some reason. Mainly because I wasn't asked. So I'm sitting there with in my kitchen one day back in late November, and my phone rings and it's Tony, and he says, "Hey, Wild Bill, how you doing? Listen, I'm sitting here with two of your best friends, Mark Russo and Carl Perazzo, who's Carl plays percussion with Santana, and we're doing the ARF benefit." And they were throwing around names of drummers, and I told him, I said, "Hey, there's only one guy to call, so I called you. What are you doing on January 18th? I said, "Nothing."
All right.
So I'm in, So they sent me stuff. They sent me a lot of. Mark sent me a lot of music to learn for. We backed up. Who was the first? We backed up 3 guys from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra: Jeff Scott Soto, Al Petrelli, and their bass player, whose name escapes me. Great kid, really good player.
I'm sorry, I can't think of it either.
Yeah, I can't think of it. But we backed him up, and then we backed up a country guy. God,
Alan Jackson, wasn't it?
No, it was.
No.
I'm so dead.
Oh, Trace Adkins.
Trace Adkins.
Yeah.
Another great guy. And I wasn't familiar with his music at all. So I had 6 tunes that I learned here in my studio and playing along to his stuff, and went and did the one rehearsal, and we played the gig, and it was awesome. The gig was great. That was, and the band was myself. We had Benny Rietveld from Santana on bass. John McPhee from the Doobies was on guitar. Lauren Gold from the Who was playing keyboards. And Lauren's a great guy who played with Huey and the News when we did the benefit a couple of years ago. Sean couldn't make it, so Lauren sat in with us, and he's a great player and a great guy. As all of them, and Carl Prazo from Santana, and Mark Russo. and so the band is just unbelievably great. Just to start with, it's great players. So it's always really fun to do that.
But there's like a lot of talented, guys out there. But everything I've heard, I didn't attend, but everything I've heard, you guys really meshed well. And I'm curious, what's the key? I know you guys are all experienced professionals, but what's the key to when you're suddenly thrown in with one rehearsal with guys maybe you've played before, maybe you haven't played with before, to getting it to mesh as a unit, as a band?
Yeah. Well, as a drummer, and these acts, these guys come in, and sometimes they'll have a musical director with them, other time to play along, but most of the time it's just them. And like one year we backed up Tim Schmidt, right, from the Eagles, bass player
Oh
from the
yeah,
Eagles,
yeah.
and we were playing his stuff, and we were playing what's that song?
I can't tell you why.
I can't tell you why exactly. And we're playing it, and that's a do 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 up all night, and it's a slow, slow song.
Yeah.
And we're playing along, and I think I'm doing great. And he stops the song, and he turns around, and he says, "It's got to be slower." I said, "Seriously, it's got slower." So, da, da,
Mm.
da. And I'm thinking it's dying a death,
Yeah.
but it actually worked out. It was fine. So you really have to listen to the way these guys want their songs played,
Hmm.
and it's what everybody in the band does. We just sit there and take direction. And because the band is so good that there's never a problem, we get it.
Yeah.
Everybody gets that.
And I'm assuming most of these guys are pretty somewhat patient, because it's not their usual group, and they know you guys are filling in, and we're just given the material.
I would say, in my experience, to the man, every single one of them has come and said, "You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. You guys did a great job."
Hmm.
We've never had anybody who was disappointed with the band. They always had a great time. They you catch them from time to time turning around and looking at the guys in the band and going, "Yeah," because we're nailing it for them. We take pride in doing that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's been a while since you performed live. Was there any butterflies, any jitters, and getting up on stage again?
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, that ship sailed probably 35 years ago.
And then getting back to weather, you were a big champion of making sure that the song "One of the Boys" was included on this album. Um, and I'm wondering what about that, spoke to you so much that you insisted on that being included.
Yeah, that song, that's a very emotional song for me. It's not our style of music at all, but the lyric is us. The lyric is talks about my life, my
Hmm.
personal my life, and I think everyone in the band, that's been our life for 40 years. Rolling down the road, heading for another show. Me and my friends, playing music till the music ends. That's
Hmm.
that's my life, and I just felt that, and it was really well done. I mean, everybody's parts were great, and the story behind it is fantastic. The story of how we recorded that song is amazing. I did my drum part in a little theater in Iowa somewhere. I couldn't even tell you the town we were in, but we
Oh.
were we were playing a theater somewhere in Iowa, and Johnny said, "Hey, come." We were at sound check, and Johnny said, "Come on out, and I want to record you playing a beat to this song we're writing." And he and James Hara came out and played the song, and I just played my drum beat to that, and played the song, and we recorded it out at the board, the house board, and that was it. That's the drum track on that song. And then John Pierce recorded his part in a hotel room in Boston. Huey sang some of it in a hotel room somewhere else. Jimmy put his guitar on somewhere else. John McPhee plays an amazing pedal steel guitar and a baritone guitar that's just beautiful. He did it at his studio in Southern California. So that song was pieced together all around the entire country. So the story behind the recording's awesome. The lyrics are fantastic. The lyric is really the story of the band's lives.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really, really important to get that song on the record.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the guys, because nobody was talking about that song going on. And I listened to it, and I came in one day, we were doing something. We were recording vocals, I think, one day. And I came and I said, that song's got to go on the record. It just has, really? And I said, yeah. The Huey, it's one of the most honest songs you've ever written, It's us. We have to put that on the record.
It also makes me wonder, just because you talk about how that was put together, which is so piecemeal, and I love that there's 27 zip codes associated with that recording. And then you guys have done the complete opposite, where with Soulsville, you went into Ardent Studios and you guys were all recording at the same time. Number one, do you have a personal preference for how to record?
Sure. I would much prefer going in the studio and doing it live and getting that quintessential take of the song on, recorded. I much prefer that.
And then two, because this is being done more and more where, there are guys and, because of the internet, they can send tracks over to this person who then adds that layer and this layer. What's the key to making it feel like everyone was in the same room?
Boy, that's a good question. I really don't know, but it feels that way, doesn't it, on that song? I probably have to chalk that one up to Johnny's production. He did a really good job on making it feel that way.
And I suppose it didn't hurt that you guys have been playing together for 40 years or so. Cool. Well, we've gone through, all of my questions. Is there anything we haven't discussed that you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, I have a question for the viewers. How's your hair doing? How's everybody's hair doing? Mine's getting a little shaggy.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I was supposed to get mine cut last week. Oh, well.
Yeah. Nah, I have a feeling it's going to be a while before I get mine cut, but that's okay. Nobody's going to see me anyway.
Right.
This is obviously a very bizarre time, and I can tell it's going to be psychologically and emotionally challenging as well as job wise, financially challenging for many, many millions of people in it. But I think we have to listen to the experts. And I mean, the best thing we can do now is stay put at home to mitigate that rise, in the spread. So listen to the experts. Hey, you want to see the rest of my studio? I can take you for a little
hell
tour.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great.
Let me take you for a little tour.
Okay.
So this is the control room right here. That's where all the gear goes. Can you see this okay?
Yeah.
That's
Is this underground?
You can see no. This is not underground. This is above ground.
Okay.
That's where my daughter cuts her vocals. She sits on
Okay.
that couch. She sits on the couch. You see the microphone right there. She
Yeah.
sits on the couch and sings. I asked her. I said, don't voice coaches um, tell you to stand up when you sing? She says, yeah, but I don't know. I like sitting down. So
But also,
anyways,
why isn't she in the booth when she sings?
well, they like to do it. I had her out in the studio in the live room. See, I have I have four rooms where she could sing in. But I'll show you.
Wow.
This is my little isolation booth right here, where I could put her to sing in here, but
Okay.
I normally put guitar amps and stuff in there. But they like being in the same room together. And she and her producer sit at the desk here. She
Hmm.
sits right there. That's what they like to do.
Okay. And
So
sound-wise, it sounds just as good as if she had been in one of the isolation booths?
sounds wonderful.
Hmm.
The guys who built my studio were just top shelf. Dennis Stearns and his crew were just amazing. And the you never really know what it's going to sound like when you build a studio.
Yeah.
But once I got it done and set up my drums and played drums, they sounded great. Every room in this place sounds great. There's
Hmm.
no issues. So this is the little entryway,
Okay.
and so you can go up there. That's my backyard, and that's my house over there. So
All
you
right.
can
So not a
see
long
that
commute.
not a long commute.
All right.
um, so yeah, so then you go into the live room, and that's where my drums are set up and some
Okay.
keyboards and stuff. That's This is my practice space, and I've been cutting some drums for some other people. My good friend Bernie Sharavelli, who plays guitar with Michael McDonald,
Hmm.
he produces his own records, which are great, by the way. You should go check out Bernie Sharavelli. He's really, really great. And he asked me to cut a tune, so I cut a tune for him. And my daughter asked me to put some drums on one of her tunes a couple of months ago, so they emailed me a file and I put drums on it and sent it back down to them. And now I've cut a couple of tracks on her new stuff up here.
Okay.
So
Is that basically the same setup you would take on the road with the band?
yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's my number one drum set right there.
And you've
And
been with
how many
Yamaha
recorded?
forever, right?
Yeah, 35 years.
Wow.
Yep. And how many recording studios can you say you can see out of?
You're right.
And here's another great thing. And my sister, who's watching right now, I know, is going to appreciate this. See this quilt on the wall?
Oh, yeah.
Can you see
Are those
that?
are those concert t-shirts?
Those are concert T-shirts
Nice.
she made for me. She made me this quilt because we needed to cover up this bare wall for reflection purposes. And she made this. I gave her a bunch of my old shirts. She made the quilt, and it works perfectly. It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, tell her to get to work, and maybe we can start putting them in the online store. Can she make like several thousand?
No, and
Yeah.
I'll answer for her right now. No.
Okay.
she she told me she told me no, I'm not going to do that again. Don't ask me. But
All right, well, that just makes it even more valuable. Okay, cool.
yeah, exactly.
And then is this, do you record just a digital? Do you ever do analog recording?
Not here yet. I do have a 16 track recorder that needs some uh, care and love that I will eventually get around to and bring it up. It's going to go right over there. And I will record drums to tape,
Okay.
and it'll be synced in with my Pro Tools setup.
I mean,
But
because,
right now, it's fully digital right now.
yeah, yeah. Um, but I was just curious because I know there's still some people who say it's a warmer sound if you're recording to analog.
It is. It's a warmer sound. It's it's about the tape saturation and the artifacts that happen when you saturate that tape. That it creates pleasing, warmer, fuller sound.
Hmm.
You can emulate that in the digital world nowadays. You can emulate that with tape machine plugins that simulate it's tape saturation and saturation plugins and stuff like that. But it's not quite the same yet, although they're
Hmm.
getting really close.
Okay. Well, that
Yeah,
also
they
makes me wonder. I mean, you know, as a professional musician, when you are listening to music, what is your preferred format?
CD right now.
Hmm.
I'm not a big streamer, although if I'm, one thing I cannot do is listen to music on an iPhone.
Hmm.
It's like nails on a blackboard to me.
Uh,
It's because it's a speaker about this big, you know,
yeah.
and so just physically you can't get any low end, so you can't hear the bass, and I
Hmm.
need to hear the bass in order to listen to music. I need because the bass dictates what chords are being played, the key of the tune. Well, you can get the key, I guess, from other pitch instruments that are more in the mid
Yeah.
range, but I just can't listen to it. It doesn't sound like music to me. So when I listen to music, I listen mostly in my car or out here, and I
Hmm.
listen to CDs
Okay.
or,
Any
or my.
vinyl?
What's that?
Someone asked about records, vinyl.
Yeah, I listen to vinyl. Listen to some vinyl.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, this has been cool. I'm glad we got the full tour. That was great.
Yeah, good, good. Tonight I like to show it off.
Yeah.
It's been in here a couple of months, and I just we love it out here, man. My AJ and my daughter get out here, and they disappear for hours, and you know
Hmm.
they're able to work, and they love that the it's really a warm, creative atmosphere out here. It's really nice.
Hmm. Okay. And, again, hope is maybe we can set something up so we can actually watch you play somehow
Sure,
through
I
all of
want to
this.
figure out. I want to figure out how to make that sound good because I know it would sound horrible coming over a laptop microphone. So
Yeah.
there's got to
Yeah.
be some way to mic it, and I think AJ can help me out with it. I'll ask him.
Okay. Okay. Or if inspiration strikes and you have some other way of just recording it, not even live streaming it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I can do that and send that to you.
Okay.
Sure. Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks
Yeah.
for making the
One more,
time.
one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say hi to my daughters, Julia and her fiance Simon, who are stuck in Long Beach under the
Oh,
shelter place, and you know, God knows how much longer we're going to be in this situation. So, hi,
do they
babe.
have do they have a wedding date set?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
All right. Well, no, that's awesome. And then, and is she a teacher as well?
No, she's a writer. Right now she's working for a company down in Los Angeles that makes beauty products, and she kind of well, Julia, write in. Tell Chris what you do. She's kind of a digital media supervisor or assistant. She writes for the website and
Okay.
does. She's a writer and a
She
really
just
good one.
posted that she did post that she misses you.
Oh,
So, all right. Well, no, this has been cool, and hopefully we can do it again sometime down the road.
definitely. Anytime. I've got lots of time.
All right. Yeah, we all do in some ways. So, all
Yes.
right. Well, stay healthy, stay sheltered.
Bet we will. Thanks
All
everybody
right.
for tuning in. See you later.